Welcome. Drink with James, episode 142. You know, they say all good things must come to an end, and while I am not stopping Drink with James, this is the final episode that we will shoot in this room. We have shot, how many have we had offsite? 5, 4? 5?
I would say maybe around 5 or 6.
Yeah, and with the guests, maybe we probably have shot 130 episodes in this room. God knows how much whiskey I have drank. Some good news though. One, we're moving into a bigger space and progress is the best drug in the world. And so that is great. 2, we're hoping that the new space will have better sound. I think it probably couldn't have worse sound.
It definitely have worse sound.
So we are getting out of the echo chamber and we'll hopefully be in a place that has better sound. So that has certainly been a struggle since the beginning. And as much as we tried, we couldn't do anything about it because it was just the room that we were in. So we will be filming from a new place in our new office next week. I am I am so tired. And this office move has been so trying and such a distraction and so much work. And I'm very happy to put it behind me and get back to my actual job of running this company. And we'll be excited to try out some new spaces for you guys next week. Again, I don't think we'll have the final place of like exactly where we're going to do it. And the layout is a little different. We can't do something similar to this in the new space, but we'll be trying out some new spots. We'll hopefully have some better sound and we're gonna have much better light, a lot more room. But you know, we kind of went through a lot in this room and I say, you know, I'm not sentimental. Like, will I miss it? You know, will I miss the strange buzzing that's going on right now that we can never really place where it's from? Like, no, I won't miss it that much. But it served us well and we bid it farewell. And we're gonna like Marie Kondo this place and be like, you know, you no longer spark joy. I'm leaving, goodbye. So let's just get into look, this is the second thing I filmed today. And I've been working like 18 hours a day, so I'm gonna skip the rest of the intro and just like get into the questions. Let's do it. Question number 1 is, I worked with a brand on a sponsored post, haven't heard from them in a few months, what should I do? This brings up something I wanted to talk about, which we will get to answering that question, but something I've been talking to our brand partners about, which I see as a pretty big problem in the space, which is not fully influencers' fault and not fully brands' faults. But in general, I think that influencer marketing has gotten too transactional in that a brand comes to work with you guys, they do a sponsored post or they do some gifting, they do a sponsored post or some gifting, and then you kind of like just don't hear from them anymore. They just disappear. You're probably left being like, what the hell? I thought we were gonna have this relationship and now you've ghosted me. And you've told your followers you love this brand and this brand is so great, and then, you know, they never hear about it again. I think that like as an influencer, when you onboard someone to be a brand partner, to do a sponsored post with, you need to be thinking about that as like a 6-month thing. And I think you need to be thinking about, you know, how you're gonna continue to support the brand. This is something Adalia talks about in her talks. I believe her and I talked about it on her podcast, which I was on, which Tim will throw a link to. But, you know, when any of her talent does a deal, she always gets them to do some bonus organic posts for the brand after their sponsorship is done. You know, I don't think you do your followers a service by just posting about a brand once and then piecing out. And like every influencer I talk to, every influencer panel I've watched, right? Influencers sit up there and they say, I would never do a sponsored post for a brand that I don't love. and then they post about it once and they never fucking talk about it again. So I'm led to believe, feels like maybe you guys are doing posts for brands that you don't love, and that's okay. Like, we've talked about that before, the fact that like you can't absolutely love every single brand that you work with, but I do think you have a responsibility to your followers and to your client and to your brand partners to try and integrate that product into your life more. And I'm not saying you have to give them 10 in-feed posts for free, but you know, if you do a sponsored post for them, try and get them in your stories. Try and include them in a what's in my bag post. Try and do something. And then as time goes on, if there's opportunities for you to reach out to try and get gifted product, like, you know, let's say it's a makeup brand, you do a post for their foundation and you're going on a trip and they have a new foundation with SPF that just came out, reach out to them, ask if you can get some so that you can post about it when you're on your, fabulous beach vacation, as I sit in a conference room and bang my head against the wall for 10 hours a day. Get proactive, get creative. We talked about doing newsletters for brands, and a lot of you have done that, and a lot of you have told me that you're getting brand deals from your newsletters, and that is working. But you also need to have some sort of CMS that has all your brand partners, and maybe the last time that you've mentioned them organically. I would have who my brand partner is, how much money to date I have made off of them, total lifetime, the last time they've worked with me in an official paid capacity, and the last time I've talked about them organically. And I would, if a brand had paid me, I would make sure that, no more than 3 months goes by without talking about them organically, because this is a relationship, and you have to understand the expectation on the brand side when they pay you is that they want this to become part of your life. Like this, if you work at that brand, you're like all in on it, right? You love this product, you think it's life-changing, like it's incredible, and they send it to you. Here's an example. I had a meeting the other day with a client, I'm not gonna say who, and they talked about how they paid an influencer to talk about their product, and they were happy with the post, and a month later in their stories, they saw a competitor's product in their kitchen that had replaced their product. And that competitor hadn't paid them, but they just never used the product. And the brand was really upset, because understandably, they're like, what the fuck? Yes, they didn't pay for exclusivity, but I do think as an influencer, you have to try to make the brand a bigger part of your life. And I think that to have longevity in this space, you need to build great relationships with brand partners that can carry you on for years. And I think your audience will start to know you're a fan of that brand and you love them and you'll support them. And you need to be thinking about those things. And look, I slap brands on the wrist too, and I think brands do a terrible job at continuing to gift the partners that they work with in official capacity. It's something that we are pushing pretty hard to say, if you pay someone, you should be sending them something every month. You should be giving them opportunities to talk about you, because otherwise, what are they supposed to do? They have to be thinking about what you're launching, go out and buy it and promote it. So it is a two-sided thing, and both sides need to get better. But as an influencer, I think you need to be keeping some sort of documentation of the brands that you've worked with, when the last time they paid you was, and when the last time you talked about them organically was, and start to build a system that makes sure you stay on top of that, because it's just good business, honestly. So, end rant. Question number 2, should I be thinking about saves? What is normal? How many saves should I be getting for a post? Something like that. We say that saves are a super right? I love saves. We did a survey. We saw that, when people see a product post of a product that they want to purchase, 15% of them will swipe up and, look at the product page to see if they want to buy it. 38% will save the in-feed post for later so that they can either look in store or online to try and purchase that product later. So saves is such an interesting place to look when you're talking about engagement. I think the average generally is about 0.1%. 0.1% of your followers should be saving your posts. We can put up the averages for all the following levels, so we'll put that up here so you guys can see. But I think especially on your product posts, watching saves and how many people are saving it is a really interesting thing. And I think when you're reporting to brands and you're talking about success, saying like, hey, 800 people saved this post, and generally my audience is saving posts because they want to purchase, so like it's a really good sign this did really well. Also for us, if we see someone who has great engagement but no saves, those things don't really like add up. And for us, we start to think, was this engagement purchased? Because if you have people who are really engaged, generally they're also saving the posts. So if they're not saving the posts and you have high engagement, it leads us to think that maybe, maybe you've been purchasing engagement. So it's definitely something that you want to watch and understand and look through, go into your insights, look at your most saved posts, see what they are, and try and figure out how to optimize for that. But it is useless if you don't report it back to brands and tell them what's happening and get excited about that. It's definitely a way to kind of separate yourself and just know it is a metric that we as a company are watching very closely and we're reporting to our brand partners. So you should start to pull that into your reports as well.
Have you seen or heard many people talk about saves, like in meetings or influencers in general? Like, seems like there's a huge upside to kind of being on top of that.
Yeah, I haven't heard people talk about saves or sent, how many people sent that post to a friend. You guys need to, you need to be thinking about this. There's only so many metrics that are in your Instagram, and you need to be understanding, like, again, ask yourself, why would somebody send this post to a friend, right? Because they want that friend to see it, because they're interested in it, because they're making fun of you. I mean, there's only so many options of why they would send it to somebody. And so if you have a post that has a lot of sends and a lot of saves, you have to ask yourself why and try and take a guess. And then as you're looking at all of your content, you're seeing the performance of those things, start to try and understand what is happening and understand how to tell that story to brands, because I'm not hearing a lot of brands talk about it. I don't think a lot of brands are thinking about it. It doesn't mean they shouldn't be, and certainly we are banging the drum about it. So I think it is a metric that's going to become more important in the coming weeks, or in the coming months. Okay. Question number 3 is kind of a continuation of last week. We were talking about delivering bad news, and the question that came out of that was just like, how do I tell a brand disappointing news? Like, what do I actually do? Last week we talked about do it quickly. Now it's like, how do you do it? How do you do? Which is always a weird thing, do. How do you do? So how do you push back? So first, do it early, as quickly as possible. Second, I wouldn't lie. Something that being people's boss, something that's been really interesting is that the lies that you tell as an employee, like when you're hungover, or you don't want to go to, or you just don't feel like going to work, or you forgot to put your vacation request in, and then you say a day before your flight, oh my gosh, last minute this thing came up and I booked a flight and I have to go. Like, all of those little lies that I used to tell as an employee that I thought were so clever are so transparent. And I know all the parents out there can probably commiserate with me that your kids lying to you about things is very easy to see through. Same for the brand side. If an influencer has some big, huge excuse about why they didn't do a post or why they screwed something up or why it's late, it's just it's so transparent that you're lying. So I think one is don't lie, because it's not doing you any good. So just be honest about what happened. And the next is thinking about, what are you going to do to make it better? Lay out a plan. When we screw something up with our clients, which is exceedingly rare, But when we do, we don't say, hey, screwed this up. Sorry. Hope you forgive me. Bye. I'm going to go hide under a rock. No, you say, hey, this happened. Here's 3 things that I'm working on to fix it. And here is exactly what I'm going to update you. And so you have to think like, hey, XYZ happened and you're not going to get what you want. Here's everything I've done to try and fix it, and here's what I can do moving forward. I can give you 2 free posts. I can cover this. Whatever it is, you need to give them something to say, shit, that's really bad. That like screws up what I'm doing is their first thought. And then like, okay, but there's a plan here. They've thought it through. And even if that plan doesn't make it better, because a lot of times it won't, if a brand is launching something on a certain day and they need you to post and you don't, like posting the day after isn't really as helpful. So like sometimes you can't make up for your screw up, but not presenting an option just says, I don't care. I just didn't even give a shit enough to I didn't even give a shit enough to think about a way to make this better because this relationship is so meaningless to me that like I couldn't be bothered. Like, that is what it feels like as a brand person when an influencer is like, sorry, that can't happen. My dog was in the hospital for 2 nights and I had no internet, and then my phone disappeared, and I'm now, deaf, dumb, and blind, and like it's impossible for me to do anything. Like whatever the insane excuses that was made up, it just all makes it feel like you don't care. So I would just say, like, 1, be a decent human and actually care, but make sure that empathy and the care actually comes through. And the best way to do that is to show that you've thought about this, you've also worried about it, and you've come up with what you think is a reasonable plan to, if not fix things, put a little Band-Aid on it and make it better. And if you screwed up and you owed them 1 post, I don't think you make good by giving them 1 post, you make good by giving them 2 posts. You have to go above and beyond, because it's not like an apples to apples thing there. Again, I know it's kind of a continuation of the last question, but learning how to tell people disappointing news is a huge life skill and life hack. And this is true not just of your professional relationships, but your personal ones as well. People just want to feel like you care.
Have you ever, I'm sure you have, but not worked with an influencer again because they were just straight lying about?
Yeah, I mean, we have a shit list in the office. We have a list of influencers that are blacklisted that we will not work with. And Adelia and I talked about this on her podcast, and every brand has a blacklist. Every brand has a list of influencers that they will not work with because the experience was bad. And people make mistakes, and you don't get on the shit list by making a mistake. You get on the shit list by making a mistake and then not trying to fix it and not caring. Because people generally are pretty down to forgive you if it feels like you actually care. And again, you will not get on that shit list if you screw up, but make a big effort to make it better. You will by screwing up and not making that effort. So listen, guys, Tim and I talked about maybe having a baseball bat, and at the end of this episode, me standing up and smashing the glass behind it. But in my weaker moments, I fear that I'd hit the baseball bat and it wouldn't, the glass wouldn't break because I'm such a diminished man right now, and I wouldn't even have the strength to break it, and then that would be embarrassing, and then it's just another thing for me to feel bad about. So we're not going to do that, but I thank you, 73 Spring Street. We'll see you at 72 Allen. Peace out.